Good morning. I'm going to talk today about studying emergency management during severe weather. Just looking quickly at what this project was about, we were looking at uncertainty in severe weather forecasts and how that then affected the preparation and response, in my case, of emergency managers. And I had colleagues who looked at the uncertainty from the meteorologist's perspective and the public's perspective. So I'm going to walk you through what a day in the life of an EOC might be, that's Emergency Operations Center, as I was doing this research. It actually begins the day before. In my field notes, 1:30 p.m., National Weather Service does a briefing. There will be 2 waves of storms tomorrow. Both had potential to be tornadic. An EM called me afterward and said he had that feeling that he'd promised to call me about. I texted with one of my colleagues, Jack, and I said, currently planning to head over first thing tomorrow and spend all day there. I'm wondering about the early day tornado possibility. He answered back, there are chances for tornadoes even with the early stuff. You wouldn't want to miss anything in the morning wave. So 7:40 a.m. I arrived. 2 EMs were there already, even though they'd said they would be opening at 8. I met the county commissioner, who was also there to see what was happening. A volunteer arrived around 8 and immediately began answering the phones. Calls had been coming in since 7 and continued for hours. When will the public tornado shelters open? Can I sign up for the notification system? How do I program my weather radio? Can I register my shelter? Someone just got off the phone with the sheriff's office. They must be getting slammed with phone calls as well. At 8:30 a.m., the Weather Service did a radio briefing with very little notice, but they'll do a longer briefing at 11 and will send slides beforehand. EMs sign into the state system indicating they're here, monitoring. The EMs put together a situation report for their partners and citizens in this county. One of the EMs says, to no one in particular, we're due. 8:59 a.m., slight power blip, and then we heard thunder. The EM called it. 9 a.m., EM does a local conference call. About 10 people are here and others are on the phone. He starts out saying, been receiving a lot of calls for information. The day 1 outlook is out. We're in a hatched area. And then in the middle of this call, he looks at me and he says, what does that mean? And I said, hatching means a higher risk of EF2 and greater tornadoes and a hail that's at least 2 inches in diameter. Then he went on, the risk has increased since yesterday. SPC's risk level is 4 out of 5. This is a little different than we normally see. Often the western part of the state has a higher risk area than we do. Then he ended the call. Today is the day we've been planning for since 2011. Not saying it's going to be that bad, but this is what we've been preparing for. 10:10 a.m. Someone came down from upstairs and asked if we were getting toothpicks for their eyeballs for later. Despite the joking, the mood is serious. 10:12 a.m. They're talking logistics if they lose internet connections. They would move to a nearby city, and then if that was also out, they'd go to another city where the main trunk comes in. 10:19 a.m. I realized calls had subsided a bit, but they're starting to pick up. 10:34 a.m. Generator test. The 911 director had swung by to tell us that was going to happen. 10:50 a.m. Another logistics discussion, this time about who was coming in and when. EMs would cover food if they got going later with weather and then response. 11 a.m., EMs gather to listen to the National Weather Service briefing. The room is quiet and intense. The WCM is doing the briefing. That usually means it's serious. The moderate risk has shifted slightly east. Cloud cover is decreasing. Dew points are going up, which will help prime the atmosphere. Expecting storms to ramp up. Everything is on the table. Tornadoes, large hail, localized flash flooding. 11:45 a.m., things have quieted down. The morning wave of storms went through uneventfully. The next wave isn't expected for a few hours, so there's not much to do right now. Seems like a good time to run out for lunch. 12:15. A sheriff deputy's here and we'll be back later for the event. He asked what level the EOC was at. It's still at level 3, which means staffed. Level 1 is like April of 2011, the big super outbreak there in Alabama. Level 2 is all the partners there manning their dispatch radios and phones. Skip ahead, 1:46 p.m. National Weather Service just radioed that there's a tornado watch coming and it will include this county. until 9 p.m. EMs are not thrilled with that. That's a long time, one says. Skip ahead. 3:08 p.m., Jack texts me. A fresh forecaster just arrived. And what the outgoing person said was, well, it could fire up any time now. 3:11 p.m. You could hear a pin drop in here. It's so quiet. Everyone is waiting for that first storm to go severe. It's just a waiting game now. 3:56 p.m., a member of the public apparently asked if he could bring Lucy into the building, and no one realized Lucy was a dog. Now they have to figure out how to tell him no. Jokes about Lucy came up several times through the rest of the event. 4:09 p.m., the commissioner is back. The EMs joked with him about how they should put me on payroll because whenever I'm there, storms don't form. Well, 4:30 p.m., a cell pops up on radar to the southwest. That's the one, Miss Daphne. That's going to get you what you want. That's our track. 3 hours till it gets here. Well, that cell died. There's still a background tension as everyone watches cells form, start moving this way, and then die. At 4:56, another cell pops up to the southwest, but at 4:58, it starts to weaken. 5:03, the deputy EM just read the message in NWS chat there to the left. It says, quick update, folks. There's dryline surface features. The latest sounding shows a very favorable environment for rotating supercells with deep layer shear, strong low-level curving hodograph, and ML cape to near 1,000 joules per kilogram. So these things might make sense to you, but this is the EMs, right? And so one of them looked at me intently and said, decipher that. I said, that's favorable for tornadoes. Not what he wanted to hear. Sheriff deputy swung around to look at the radar again. Now he's watching weather coverage on TV. No one is on their phone. 5:08 p.m. EM has his face in his hand. Then he wiped his face, then finger on his nose while he stared at the radar. He's fidgety. Everyone is kind of tense. In background interviews, EMs had told me that if storms were tornadic in the western parts of the state, they might not be here, and vice versa. Storms haven't been tornadic yet. 5:17 p.m. Cells are moving through the county now. No reports yet. 5:20 p.m. The ham radio operator points out that a couple people might complain if schools and businesses closed if they didn't get anything. The EM responded, that's the downside of this. It could end up being a big forecast, but a non-event. 5:21 p.m. The ham said, that cell west of town has intensified. The EM responded, I'll take the hail. Just keep the tornadoes. Even 2-inch. Hope everyone has insurance, he said. 6:12 p.m. One of the EMs had me go outside to look at the clouds. There are definitely some funky motions here in the valley. You could see low-level scud moving maybe even straight across. It looked like highly backed winds. Tower cams are now up, and the EM had a picture of the cloud base that looked like a pretty good storm. Not quite a wall cloud lowering yet, but a nice-looking cloud base. 6:52 p.m. Someone commented that the last time they had a tornado, it happened right at the end of a long day, right about when they thought everyone was going to get to go home. Maybe he's saying this as a caution, that it's not over till it's over. 6:54 p.m. A cell is now on radar where a tornado back in 1973 had plowed through the valley and hit a school. 7:15 p.m. They've got quarter-size hail on the south end of town, and we're watching hail fall in their tower cam. Pea-size hail here at the office. It ended fairly fast. 7:24 p.m., watching the storm right on the county line. Sheriff updating deputies about where the storms are and what to keep an eye on. 7:32 p.m., the weather service just cleared the county to the west from the watch. 7:47 p.m., sheriff deputy is leaving. Others are starting to stand down. 8:08 p.m., county is now cleared from the tornado watch. That's a wrap. So it was a long day. Nothing happened in this county except some hail. I had arrived at 7:40 a.m. I didn't leave until 9 p.m. It's helpful to be able to monitor your attention and take breaks when you can so that you can stay vigilant when the vigilance is needed. Like I took that break at lunchtime and I missed a few things, but nothing of huge consequence. Got to be prepared to be there for the long haul. Comfortable clothes, food and snacks. Listen to the mood, watch the action, monitor the words. And where can this kind of research make a difference? Well, keying in on things they're frustrated about. That might indicate openings for improvement.